Moving now to Europe, and Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that the need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine has not arisen and that he hoped they will not be required. In an interview, Putin said that Russia has the strength and the means to bring the conflict in Ukraine to a logical conclusion. Meanwhile, Russia's overnight drone attack on Kyiv has injured at least 11 people, including 2 children, and set several residential buildings throughout the city on fire, according to the military and officials of the Ukrainian capital. Timur Tkaichenko, head of Kyiv's military administration, said on social media that falling debris from destroyed drones had sparked fires at residential buildings in Kyiv. This comes after Ukraine struck several Russian cities on Saturday in what Russia called a mass drone attack. According to local Russian officials, apartment blocks in the Black Sea town of Novorossiysk were damaged by the drone strikes. The mayor of the Russian port city said that the drone attack injured 5 people, including 2 children. Meanwhile, tensions are rising over the 3-day ceasefire proposed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Putin of playing games after the Russian leader proposed the 72-hour unilateral ceasefire to coincide with Moscow's Victory Day commemorations. Zelensky has also called the truce a theatrical performance on Putin's part and said that Ukraine could not guarantee the safety of any foreign dignitaries who come to Moscow for the Victory Day. Meanwhile, Russia reportedly continues to reject an unconditional 30-day ceasefire pushed by Ukraine and the United States, which is trying to broker an end to the more than 3-year war. Well, joining us to discuss all of these latest developments is Professor Alexei Haran, a professor of comparative politics at the University of Kyiv-Mohyla, who's joining us from Kyiv in Ukraine. Professor Haran, thank you ever so much for being here. I want to first pick up on these comments that have been made by Vladimir Putin, saying that there's been no need for nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Is this a warning that Russia has them and can use them if they want to, or is this a sign of de-escalating tensions and a chance towards a more permanent ceasefire?
No, it's a very cynical statement, because actually since the start of Russian full-scale invasion, Russia continuously intimidated Ukraine and other countries with nuclear weapons. So actually Russia is doing it all the time since the full-scale invasion. That's why what Putin is saying right now, it's a bit, very cynical. The very question about using nuclear weapons against the country which gave up the 3rd nuclear arsenal in the world. And Russia guaranteed our territorial security. So we disarmed and Russia attacked. And Russia is killing Ukrainians, civilian Ukrainians. And yes, this night, actually, the explosions were nearby my vicinity. I know actually the buildings which were hit. Several days ago, a building which is 300 meters from my daughter's house was totally destroyed. So that's what Russia is doing. It's intimidating, civilians in Ukraine. That's why we shouldn't equate it with what Ukraine is doing, okay? Because in your presentation, it sounded that Russian attack was kind of response to Ukrainian attack. Not at all. Come on, Russia is aggressor. We shouldn't equate the rapist and its victim. Yes, we are defending our freedom, so we are striking military objects and the Navy, Russian Navy, but we are not striking civilians objects. This is a total different with what Russia is doing in Ukraine. I am providing you with hard facts. It's not about interpretations. That's hard facts. Russia is continuously destroying Ukrainian cities and killing Ukrainian civilians. We know about that. There is a lot of footages, a lot of episodes on YouTube, on internet. So everybody who wants to know knows it.
Professor Haran, I want to talk about this proposed 3-day ceasefire. Volodymyr Zelensky, of course, the president of Ukraine, saying that foreign dignitaries won't have guaranteed safety if they attend this end of the Second World War 80th anniversary celebration. Do Do you think it's in Zelensky's interest to agree to this 3-day ceasefire, to potentially work towards a longer 30-day ceasefire as he's proposed?
No, there are two different questions here. First, yes, we cannot guarantee what's happened with foreign visitors in Russia, because Russia is always organizing provocations. So yes, they may, explode some of the objects in Russia and then saying, okay, these are Ukrainians who are trying, to kill foreign visitors, so they can do that. They're doing it actually many times in their own history. So that's why, yes, we cannot guarantee. That's right. Now, the question about ceasefire is different. So what Russia is saying, Russia wants to have 3 days, ceasefire to celebrate May 9th, their victory day. By the way, the whole world celebrated on May 8th. So Russia would like to celebrate and to have military parade in Moscow, but they refuse to continue this ceasefire. They continue to strike Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian citizens. What President Zelensky is saying, he's saying, okay, you propose 3 days ceasefire, let's have 30 days ceasefire. We can start it with every day in May. We can start it on May 7th, we can start it on May 5th, but let's do it 30-day ceasefire, and we'll see what Russia will say. Previously, they were saying no. Again, Ukraine agreed to full-scale, continuous ceasefire. Russians said no. So they're trying, to speak from the language of force by continuing to strike Ukraine and Ukrainian cities. So that's why they do not want real ceasefire.
Professor Alexei Haran, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing more of an insight there as these negotiations continue between Russia and Ukraine over a potential ceasefire. Make sure